Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Coaching Legends and American Heroes by Soldiers of Sidelines. Tonight is going to be action packed. I'm so glad everybody's here and put it in the chat. Who knows who sings that song and what's the title? Get it going. And we have two incredible guests. And starting us off, one of our coaching legends is Coach Tony Coaxum, who is a storied soldier coach, the original. Tony was a 3-year starter at cornerback for the Army football team, and he ran track. He sits tied for fourth all time for pass breakups in a single season, tied for 10th all time for pass defended in a single season, and tied for 14th all time in career pass breakups. He's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. He graduated in May 2000 and was commissioned into the field artillery and spent his active duty time at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Recently, Coach Coaxum was named the head coach of Bluefield State football on October 9th, 2020. And this is amazing because this is the first time ever that Bluefield had a football team. So he's bringing it from scratch. It's an HBCU in West Virginia. And to start a football program from scratch is very, very difficult, to the point where he had to get dorms built. Just got a weight room. I mean, from scratch. And even more impressive than that, recruiting the first class ever. Usually you have a year where you kind of do exhibition. He went right into it and had a winning season at 4-3, which is honestly just an unbelievable feat in itself. So prior to Bluefield, Tony served at the University of Northern Colorado, where he was a special teams coordinator and defensive backs coach. And prior to that, Coach Coaxum served as senior special teams analyst at Kansas under Les Miles. He was also at Central Michigan University as special teams coordinator and cornerbacks coach. He was also a Super Bowl winner with the Denver Broncos as assistant special teams coordinator. And he served at the same role with the Baltimore Ravens in 2014. So he also coached at Army West Point. He coached the linebackers and corners from 2007 to 2014. Coach Coaxum participated in the NFL's Bill Walsh Minority Fellowship Program with the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So what I'm so impressed about, aside from his success in Bluefield, is his passion for leadership and mentoring. And he published this book right here, The Leadership Playbook, Leadership Guide from a Former Army Officer and Super Bowl Champion. Okay. Currently, you can buy this on Amazon. Clearly, I did. I love it, and I'm very grateful that you signed it for me, Coach Coaxum. This is amazing. And Coach is a native to Charleston, South Carolina, and he chose a song, Put On For My City. So we were representing Charleston, South Carolina, where he's from, but more importantly, where he lives now and his Bluefield State College family. So please, everybody, welcome Coach Tony Coaxum.
Thanks for that, man. And there's a couple small things going to correct in that. So this is called Coaching Legends and American Heroes. The actual coaching legend he wanted couldn't show up, so I filled in. I'm definitely not a coaching legend by any stretch of imagination, so I decided to fill in and help out a little bit. And other than that, pretty spot on with things. And we did have football before, but it's been 41 years since we had football here at Bluefield State. Program was kind of was shut down back in 1980, and it's been a lot of fun to bring this thing back and revive it all. And it's one of those things to where building something from scratch and going through the process that we went through has been a lot of fun. It's been challenging. It's been everything. The kind of analogy I use a lot of times is like you're becoming a parent and you're so excited that you're going to be a father and then baby's here, and now it's time to take the baby out the hospital. And you're like, oh, please don't let me kill this baby, and cool things go on, and baby rolls over and crawls or starts to take a couple words or steps, and you're excited about that. And then the next day, you're like, doggone it, I left the baby on the hood of the car. So it was constant things like that back and forth, that you have the highs, the lows, and everything in between. But throughout this whole process, it's been like the stock market, man. It's it's up highs and lows, but the trending has always been up. And like everything, man, I had to depend on every single thing that I learned as a from my family values to my time at West Point, Army football, to leaning on my fraternity brothers and everything, and family and friends and all that to get through this. And again, obviously all the coaches that I brought in and the support I have here at Bluefield. So, and in the city of Bluefield, West Virginia, at Bluefield State. So it's been a lot of fun. And Harrison, thank you for having me here to do this. A big supporter of everything I've been doing. And talking to Harrison, if you ever need a perk to feel better about yourself, just give Harrison a call, and he'll make you feel like, you rule the world, man. So I appreciate that. And just blessed to be here with everybody on there and to share the stage with Ced, who heard a lot of great things about, and we got to speak. We talked in person about 2 weeks ago now, and we're two peas in a pod, man. Being an artillery officer myself, and one of the biggest things I always learned is to lean and depend on your NCOs. And I had some unbelievable NCOs when I was in the Army, and I still talk to them today. And Ced is one of those guys that if we served in the same unit, I would definitely listen to that guy, and would have loved him to be one of my NCOs, because he's everything that the NCO Corps is all about. And that's pretty cool to know that, because my son, who's in the Army right now, he was just promoted to E5 on February 1st. So now he's in the NCO Corps, and he's at BOLIC right now. BLC right now, taking those reins, and I'm excited for him and proud of him as well. So, this biggest thing for me is just talking about leadership and everything that goes on. And I'm just really to ask any question you guys may have, and just kind of tell you my story and just what fuels me every day. So again, thanks for having me.
Awesome, Tony. And that's a great segue to talk about our American hero tonight. And like Coach was saying, we have retired Master Sergeant Cedric King. So we call him Ced lovingly. And he entered the United States Army in 1995. During his 20-year career, King proved himself to be an exemplary soldier, graduating from several distinguishing schools in the Army, including but not limited to the United States Army Jump Master Course, the United States Army Pathfinder Course, Air Assault Course, and the United States Army Ranger Course. He is the recipient of the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Legion of Merit. So on the morning of July 25th, 2012, during his second tour in Afghanistan, King was severely injured by an improvised explosive device. The explosion caused internal injuries, permanent damage to his right arm and hand, and the amputation of both his legs. King now refers to that moment as his finest hour. While recovering from his injuries, King found time to complete his bachelor's degree and begin to cultivate his speaking voice. Since becoming an amputee, King has shared his story of perseverance and endurance with audience such as the U.S. Naval Academy, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, professional sports teams in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, Fortune 500 companies from Home Depot to Facebook. In February of 2019, his story was published into print when he released his book called The Making Point. Here it is. I recommend everybody get this. If you really want to feel good about yourself, read both of these books. This thing is awesome. I'm just telling you, I love everything about it. And we'll get to hear a little bit of some of the words of wisdom in this book, because I know it's just going to come out in this conversation today. He shares mindsets, philosophies, and stories that include how 21 months after losing both his legs, Ced completed the 2014 Boston Marathon, which he just said he's actually training for again for this year. So that wasn't like a one-time thing. Like, he's a legit endurance athlete. And I am super impressed. He has been featured on networks such as CBS, NBC, ABC, HBO, any popular TV network with 3 letters, he was on it. Okay. He has gone on to compete in a number of physically taxing events, including a 70.3 mile half Ironman. He's a 2 New York City marathon finisher, 5-time Boston Marathon finisher, and won numerous half marathons, and a 3-time 48.6 mile Disney Marathon finisher. So it is such an honor to have American hero Ced King and coaching legend, whether you believe it or not, Tony, you're a legend, or a legend in the making, let's call it that, in compromise, here to discuss really what it takes to do things that everybody says you can't. Because I am guilty of this. When Coach Coaxum told me he was leaving Northern Colorado to go take over Bluefield and they didn't have dorms, I thought he was crazy, couldn't do it. Not only did he did it, he turned it into a winning season. And now you know Ced's bio, and all he's doing is smashing doubters. So, Ced, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. I love the topic of doing the impossible. I live for that. Every day after this IED blessing, and notice I said blessing. Every day I feel like I'm living in, you know, I feel like it's just a blessing to be here. Every day is a gift, and every day I get to do the impossible. I get to train, and I'm not supposed to be training. I get to run. I'm not supposed to be swimming. I'm not supposed to be running and biking. I'm not supposed to be doing those things, but I go ahead and I do it anyway, man. And by doing it anyway, I think I empower other people to do what they didn't think could be done.
Awesome. So I want to start the conversation with this statement, and I want to hear Tony's reaction to it and then your reaction. Ced, ready?
Yep.
Let others' doubt be the fuel for your motivation. Tony, go.
That's the easy one, man. That's one of the things to again, I'm around 17 to 22-year-old kids on a daily basis. So that translates simple to let the haters hate. You know, it's one of the things to where in the words of the comedic genius Cat Williams, you know, if you don't have five haters by Saturday, you're not trying. You know, you're not working hard enough. You want to get more. Because again, people that doubt you and the haters out there, they don't do that to people that aren't doing anything. You know, if you're not being successful, if you're not achieving things, people don't pay you any mind. They just let you kind of do what you go on to keep doing what you're doing. But if you're being successful, if you're doing things that people are paying attention to, you're changing lives, you're impacting people, and people are talking about it and trying to bring that down, then good. I want you to keep doing that. And again, that's just kind of how I always done things. You know, and it hadn't just been with this, you know, growing up in Charlotte, South Carolina, when, you know, West Point came about and, you know, wanted to go through it and didn't play football in high school. I was a track guy and a basketball player, and track was my number one sport in high school. And I was getting into West Point, say, you know, I want to try playing football again. Hadn't played since I was a little kid. And people were like, do you really think you can make it up there at West Point? And so that fueled me. And got there and walked onto the team and wanted to play. Say, you didn't play football in high school. You really think you can do that? And I was a receiver at the prep school, caught some eyes and went up to West Point and started being with the recruited guys and played that season as a receiver, got moved to the defensive side of the ball. And I was a 7th-string corner going into spring ball my freshman year, and just worked my way up the depth chart. And by the opening week, my sophomore year, I was the number 2 corner and played in the opening game. And by week 3, I started, and then I started the rest of my career. So constantly doing those things, got into the military, and, good fortunes changed to where I had an injury, had to get out of it, and started getting into coaching. And people were like, you really want to do that? Why do you want to make that jump from a good civilian job in the corporate America to get to coaching? Take that leap. I did it because, people told me I couldn't do it. And same thing, when chance to go to the NFL came about, wanted to make that push. So it's always something that, trying to prove people wrong. I'm stubborn that way. That's from my upbringing. Started with my mom and just my family in general, and just having the belief in the things that you want to do, trying to get it done. And West Point had a big part in that, because going through West Point and everything that they teach you, it makes you fearless to some extent. Going through West Point and the things they put in front of you that you never thought you would do, they show you that you can do that. So I had some of that that fearlessness that West Point taught me, that, hey, you can go do whatever you need to do and give that shot and try to get it done. So coming across this, and people said this to you, Harrison wasn't the only one that said, hey, are you crazy? Your first head coaching job, you want to go take that on. And my quick response was, hey, I went to West Point and graduated. I'm not worried about, starting this program. That's going to be easy. And, we'll figure a way to get it done to scratch and claw. And I believe in the things that we're doing and how we're doing it. So surrounding myself with the right people that are smarter than me and better than me at a lot of things. And I just kind of be there. My job is to serve them. If whatever they need, I got to get them the things that they need to do in order for them to accomplish the thing that we've accomplished this year and the things we want to accomplish. So it's just having that confidence to continue to go. And again, a little bit of pettiness and like I said, hey, and embracing the haters.
Well, Tony, it's amazing. And I'm really grateful that you hired some of our soldier coaches. I mean, it just means a lot, like how much you believe in this mission, man. And, I can't be more proud of this story to be the one to say I was a doubter and you smashed it and proved otherwise, man. So I'm going to throw that back now to Ced. I'm going to repeat the phrase and get Coach King's reaction here. Let others' doubt be the fuel for your motivation. Go.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is a quote that says, "Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good that we often would win by failing to attempt." And for me, my entire life, it wasn't the doubters out there. Or maybe I just didn't pay attention to the doubters out there, but it was the doubt in here. The doubt in here was so loud throughout my life. And it came down to me controlling the doubt in here. Once I could control the doubter in here, everything out there didn't have a chance, man. Whether it was going to Ranger School, whether it was going to, trying to, be the EIB, or whether it was, going to, it was always, hey man, do I have what that dude has? Can I muster up the moment that it takes to overcome the doubt in here, right at the right time? And man, once I learned to overcome the doubt in here, man, everything else just was like, whether it was running a marathon, whether it was running a 5K, whether it was losing my legs and coming back, it was always overcoming the doubt in here. I can tell you the moment that it happened for me. I'm laying down in the hospital and I'm watching at the time, if you've ever been around and an Olympics happens, a summer Olympics at that, but if it happens overseas, you got to watch the Olympics at night or early in the morning. You got to catch it at odd hours. And around that time, the doctors are coming in to do their, rounds, they're coming around. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, they cut on every light in the whole hospital room. Right when I'm trying to get the best sleep. And when he cuts on the lights, the TV comes on. And as I'm watching, I'm, waking up, I think I'm going crazy, but I'm watching a guy on running blades run around this track in London. And I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. And if you've ever had a moment in your life where you're so excited, you make a mistake sometimes and open your mouth and you say, that's what I'm gonna do around the wrong people. They will assist the doubter in here. It just so happens that when I said it, the doctor that was getting ready to do the surgery on me, he says, "You mean to tell me that we're getting ready to go here and clean out shrapnel that's still in your leg, and you're talking about running where?" He's like, let's just take care of this first, and then we can get you running later. He said, "I'm so sick and tired of you soldiers coming back from Afghanistan. I've been working at this hospital for years." Maybe he was just having a bad day. Maybe he didn't get, any loving and hugs and kisses from his lady the night before. But the thing about it is, I'm so inspired because the very thing that I see as possible, that's what I need. It's my fuel, man. And this guy it was such a downer. Now, if you're built like me, for the first 5 or 10 minutes, you'll be down and depressed. And then it'll start to piss you off. You'll be like, wait a minute, bro. Man, I've overcome so many things in the past. This is just going to be another link in my chain. This is going to be another chink in my armor. This is going to be another a plaque on the wall. And sure enough, man, 12 months, exactly 12 months after this doctor is poking me and telling me that I need to just focus on walking, I'm standing on the starting line of the Army 10-miler in Washington, D.C. Every year the Army has its race. And for the Army, it's a 10-miler. Do a race. And I'm standing on the start line of the Army 10-miler. Mile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going all around the National Mall and everything, passing by all these monuments. And I'm coming into the home stretch for the 10th mile, which is the finish line. And I'm so excited. I'm like, ugh. And as I'm coming down this ramp, I can't slow down. I haven't really figured. I can figure out how to run, but I haven't figured out how to slow down on these things. So I'm going down a ramp, headed toward the Pentagon. That's where the finish line is. And I'm starting to pass people. And they don't know. They think I'm just running faster. They don't know I can't slow down. I'm like, get out of the way. And sure enough, I get down to the bottom. I'm starting to slow down. And I start to see this really familiar face, man. It's like, God, you ever looked at somebody from behind, maybe in the grocery store, you see somebody, you don't want to look at them, you don't want to have them catch you looking at them. So you kind of like peek, is a little weak peek. And sure enough, I catch up to the doctor that tells me what wasn't possible, that I just need to focus on walking. Are you kidding me? And that moment, every single doubt that I have ever had was obliterated in that moment. It taught me that what was in here is really real, man. And I'm the only one that could abort it. I'm the only one that could abort it. Not him, not them. Nobody else can stop me from accomplishing what I set out to do. But me. And that's why that quote is so powerful to me. Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we often would win by failing to attempt. There's nothing that can stop you. Nothing but you.
I love it. I'm juiced, and I love hearing that message. I wish I could hear that message every single day. The way you deliver it too gets me all excited. Said, love it. Okay, so I'm going to spin this a little bit. Okay, so you guys, we talked about how you overcome others' doubt and how you overcome the doubt within you. But both you guys are tremendous leaders, and you have been, for a long, long time. So this gets a little bit more tricky. How do you coach that in others? Right? What are the things that you're doing now, right, to try to get like Coach Coaxum, that you got to convince kids to come play for your football team right now, and you were able to do that without dorms. You got parents of players saying, where's my kid going to sleep? We're working on it. How did you overcome everybody else's doubt so that they could do things that were unimaginable, like winning going 4-3 this year?
I think the first part of it is, and other people have used the same word, and I always make sure I correct them on it when it comes to, again, our philosophy on how we go about recruiting and talking to young people, young men coming in and their families to be part of our program. I definitely don't try to convince them of anything. All I do is I'm telling them what we're about. I'm telling them, what our mindset is, what our goals are, what our vision is on everything, and what my deal is, what we're doing for why coming here to be with us, and I tell us all the time, it turns to like a little joke. When the families are around, I said, dads, grandpas, uncles, coaches, y'all not important. I'm not talking to you right now. Players, I'm not talking to you right now. I focus on moms. Because I look, if it ain't right with mom, it ain't happening. Because that's always going to be their baby, And what does number one thing that mom wants? She wants to know that her baby is being taken care of. So I go to that point of letting them know, hey, you tell your son, or you drop your son off and you say they want to be a part of this. And the day you drop them off, that they're going to be part of our family. I'm going to take care of them like they're my family, like they're my son. My son is older than all these kids that I'm coaching right now. And I make sure they understand what that is. So it's not convincing them, because when you try to convince, it may lead you down a line of promising things that you can't promise, that you can't deliver on. And again, it's letting them understand what my mindset is I wouldn't be asking you to do anything or put your son in a situation that I wouldn't put my own son in, or again, people in my family in. So we try to get away from that convincing part. But again, it's just focusing on the vision of what we are and what we're doing, and who I am as a person, and things that are important to me, and letting them understand that my goal is to get your young man to graduate, and then to be the best person they can possibly be the best husband, if that's what they choose to be, father, and leader wherever they go, whether they stay here in Bluefield for the next 30 years, or they go to Spain and live in Spain and do wherever if they end up in Budapest or wherever it is to go out and impact the world. And that's what we focus on. And everything we talk about is geared towards that. We talk very little about football, because the football stuff will take care of itself if you put in the right parameters and you focus on the fundamentals, and you focus on the things that's going to impact winning with everything. And we constantly go back and forth when we talk about that. Every time there's something that happens in practice, I show them that if they're doing something wrong in practice, how that relates to something in life, doing it the way we want it done, or the lessons we being taught. I try to relate everything back to real life. So, something that's going to happen to them 10 years from now, and not what's happening today, and constantly make those connections. And I also open up to them. I let them know that I'm not perfect. I let them know that I made a lot of the same mistakes that they made. And I let them know I had a 1.3 GPA my first semester at West Point. And I thought that they weren't even going to let me come back to pick up my stuff, that they were going to ship the rest of my stuff home to me, because I'm embarrassing everything West Point is, and they don't want you anywhere around it. I let them know I went through that pain and that struggle and that not knowing if I was going to be able to come back and do those things. I let them know my failures. They know I'm very vulnerable around them. These kids have seen me shed tears way too many times. And guess what? They're going to keep seeing that, because that's just who I am. I'm an emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I just tell them like it is. I tell them what's on my mind. So I let them know that those pieces are there, and then just reinforce it by how we do things. So I guess the simple answer is to be authentic, be genuine, be real. I don't write anything down when I'm talking. When I doing things like this, or my introductory speech or press conference, the only thing I had written down on a sheet of paper were the people that I wanted to make sure that I thanked, the coaches and the family members in that. And I still left some people off. But other than that, I speak from my heart, because my number one thing is, I know I'm not the best football coach. All right. The guys on my staff are better football coaches than I am. There's a lot of guys around this country that are better football coaches than I am. I can always get better at that. But I do know I'll go toe to toe with anyone when it comes to leadership. I don't play second fiddle to anyone when it comes to that in my mind. And that may be arrogance, maybe confidence, whatever you call it, but I understand, I do know what it takes to lead people. And and one of those first things is getting to know who they are. You got to know who someone is before you can really lead them and guide them, because you got to know what makes them tick. You got to know some people you can chew on. You can really get on them hard about things, because that's what it takes for them to pick up on lessons. Other people, you can't do that. So you have to learn those things. So, and I think I'm very good at doing those things. So I don't play second fiddle to anyone in my mind when it comes to leadership. You know, and you can talk about the Nick Sabans, you can talk about the Kirby Smarts and all those guys. They can't hold a fiddle to me when it comes to leadership. That's just my mindset. You know what I mean? I got a lot the way to catch up to them when it comes to, X's and O's, and I'll try to do that. But when it comes to leadership, I can do that. And the reason why I'm so confident in that, because where I've come from, the people I've been around, and I know it's in my heart. And I know I'm going to give every single thing to everybody that's under my charge to make them successful. And I tell my players all the time, when you're doing the things you're supposed to do and you're working your butt off, striving hard, I will burn down the gates of hell if something's being done to you wrong or you're not being treated the right way. And that's literally and figuratively if I have to be. And they get that from me. And all I ever ask them is give me everything they have, and I have their back, because that's what I would do with my family. And I just try to reinforce that every day, because again, I know I can control that. I can focus. I can promise them that. I can't promise them that, they're going to be 4-year starters. I can't promise them we're going to win championships every year. I can promise them the effort that I'm going to put in to make sure they get the goals that we set out for them, as in, like I said, graduating and being the best people, because I have full control over that. And that's why I'm so confident in when it comes to dealing with that.
Awesome, Tony. So in all that, I heard some really great nuggets there. I heard initially it's just do what you set out to do. Like, you don't convince anybody of anything. I love that, because it puts your back into a corner sometimes, because you wind up over promising and under delivering. So just do what you said you were going to do and don't try to convince. Then I heard be authentic, like truly authentic, speaking from the heart. And then the third thing I heard there was modeling confidence in what you're great at and you believe it to be leadership. And because that comes out of your pores, it's different than ego. It's just this confidence in what you were born to do, and that's lead. Is that a decent summary?
Right on the money.
Awesome. So now I want to see what Ced has to say about that, and how you inspire others to overcome their doubt so they can achieve things that they never thought were possible.
Well, I gotta tell you, man, Tony knocked it out of the park. He took half my notepad over here, man. So, but I will say this. As far as leading other people, I don't think that we actually set out to be. You got to understand, man. I was raised just like Tony at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, during the 90s. And then I went out to a place called the Ranger Regiment. And these leaders, I don't believe that any of them set out to be like, I'm going to go and be a great leader. We all just saw incredible examples of leadership every single day. So all I had to do was just follow the blueprint. It was there. We have a Secretary of Defense right now that was on the street at Fort Bragg. He was a colonel on the street at the time. I mean, so many of America's greatest leaders come through in and out of Fort Bragg and the Ranger Regiment. It's just like, all I got to do is copy off their paper. You're supposed to. I never set out, this is the honest God, I never set out to try and be a leader. It was just a couple things. I had to lead myself well. That was the first and foremost thing. Lead me well every day. Do the things that I expect others to do. Let me be the first one to do it. If I expect for my uniform to be right, well, guess what? I'm going to make sure that my uniform is right, so their uniform will be right. Now I am the example. Okay. If I am expecting my team to be experts in their physical fitness, at their rifle marksmanship, at their drilling ceremony, at their land navigation, at any of these things, I need to be the example. And this cuts down on any excuses. As long as I am the example, then all they got to do is copy off my paper. Be on time. right? Be at the right uniform, right time, right uniform, right place, right attitude. If you could do those things consistently, then we got nothing to talk about. All you got to do is walk where I walk at. It's all there for you. I think the other thing it reminds me of this. And you talk about instilling confidence. I had the opportunity to lead men, and I guess we all did. I guess to a certain extent, we all led men and women in combat. You know, and in combat, it's a little bit different than leading them at any other time. We got the opportunity. We hit the lottery as leaders because we actually get a chance to see if this textbook stuff works in real life. We get to actually play what they call in sports under the whistle, right? And in combat, it's even more simple. I think you actually have people are relying on you to do what you said you're going to do. If you said that we're going to take out this hill or we're going to do a reconnaissance on this, then I need to see you move first. And your movement will instill courage in others. Once they see me charge, it gives them some ungodly like courage to go and do the thing they wouldn't normally do. If you see me assault first, then you'll have a little bit more courage to do things you wouldn't normally do. We don't normally run toward bullets. But when you see a leader run toward the bullet, then something inside you is ignited. I think the other example is this. I don't know how many instructors we have here that were on airborne status, but for me, I had just the Army sit me down to the schoolhouse and told me that I was going to be an airborne instructor and nothing else I didn't want to do. I did not want to go and teach dudes and girls to jump out of helicopters and airplanes. It's like no, I'll inspect it, but I don't want to go and teach it. Sure enough, I got the best lesson as far as leadership in my life right there, because running toward bullets isn't normal, but jumping out of airplanes that aren't on fire isn't normal either. And as I'm sitting there, giving out the jump commands, and a lot of us were on airborne status that are on this call right now. But when the jump master stands up and gives you those 10 minutes, you start knowing that it's about to go down. It's about to go down. You are about to exit an airplane with a parachute on your back, and your life is now in the hands of your equipment and your training and the person that's trained you. And when you see that person in front of you that was right here, right beside you, go out of that door, it's not normal. It's not normal to see. But the person who is leading that 10 minutes, that jump master, his confidence, his knowledge, his expertise, his charisma, all of this gives you the confidence to do something that it's not normal. And leaders, if you're on this call right now, you have to understand, you actually have the ability inside you to make people do the things that they are too afraid to do on their own. You have it inside you to make people do things that they are afraid to do. It's not making them, it's making them want to do what they are afraid to do. I make people want to exit this airplane, and they are afraid to do it. I don't make them do it, but I make them want to do it. That's the power of a leader. That's the power that you have inside you. You emulate confidence and you make me want to be a part of this fraternity by exiting this aircraft. I know Coach Tony. I know all these guys that are on here and seen comments airborne. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's an esprit de corps that you build simply by you emulating the culture. All I had to do was follow in line with these great leaders I can't even take credit for it, man. All I'm doing is the things that I saw, all these leaders before me do. I can't take credit for it, man. I can't. I'd be stealing. It'd be thievery.
Yeah, I hear you. And what I get from you is, modeling the behavior that you want everybody else to follow, right? And that's kind of what you did. And, but I also heard you say you were taking, that Tony was talking about authenticity, right? And that was one of the things that you wanted to say. So then it makes me think, said that, yeah, you followed the playbook from everybody else, but you made it also your own. And there had to be some time where you thought about who you wanted to be. Like, what were the traits that you really wanted
That's good.
to be persistent from everybody else? And I think that's different for everybody. Like Tony talked about a couple of his. So I don't even know if you know this off the top of your head. Like, what are maybe like one or two of like your top four that when you lead, you want, if you walk away from underneath said King's leadership, I want you to mimic these two things. What would those be?
It's for me, it's really easy. And I know it's four things, but be at the right place, right time, right uniform, right attitude. That was given to me on day one, showing up at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, your first day. And I know that's four things, but if you can consistently do those four things, you will lead at all times. So you will constantly be put forth to lead others because you're consistently doing it. It'll work in the NFL. It'll work in the NBA. It'll work in the Army. It'll work in the Navy. It'll work in business. It'll work in family. It'll work at the dinner table. It'll work at church. It'll work wherever you are. If you can consistently bring the right attitude, right uniform, right place, right time, you consistently do those four things, you're going to be a leader, whether you want to be or not, because you are embodying it. You're leading yourself well. And if you can lead yourself well doing those four things, you're going to be somebody's leader, whether you want to be or not. It's just how things work. Hey, and purchase the Unity PT shirt.
Hey, Harris, I want to add one thing, it's a simple thing that kind of show exactly what a leader does. It's a simple little exercise we'll do it in for like 5 seconds. So everybody right now, if you can, just stick your arms out as far as you can. Next exercise, stick your arms out as far as you can. Everybody do that as far as you can. All right, everybody got them as far as you can. Now stretch them out a little bit more. Everyone seemed to found that little bit more, right? I originally said stretch as far as you can, but when I said a little bit more, everybody found a little extra inch, half inch, or whatever. That's what a leader does. He finds a way. You think you give everything you're doing, and that person, and you truly believe in that person, and they're going to ask you for a little bit more, and you're going to find to get that little bit more of them. That's and that goes back what you said earlier, about getting you to do something that you didn't think you could do. Or something that you didn't know that you had in you.
You're afraid to do. You're afraid to do it. Yes, I'm afraid to jump out of this airplane.
Yep, that's what a leader does. Makes you find that little extra thing that you thought wasn't there. And that little exercise is something I've done before to show people, that's what the job of a leader is.
Awesome, Tony. And so what we should do now is turn the questions over to the audience. So if anybody has a question for either Tony or Sid King, just put it in the chat and I'll ask you to mute yourself, and we'll have some time to do that here for the next 15 minutes. And we already have one already. And I know Coach Nick Troxler has a question for Coach Coaxum. Nick, you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. Hey, thanks, Harrison. Hey, thanks, Coach. And airborne there, Cedric. So my question for you, I got to go back to it because I texted over, is how did you incorporate, in what ways did you incorporate the attributes you learned from your experience at the military academy and also your subsequent leadership positions into your role as a head coach? And how was that initially, received by your players?
That's a great question, man. It's the one big thing, you call me biased, whatever it is, but I think there's not a better, not only just educational institution on the planet than West Point, but just the leadership, you know what I mean? It shapes so much. And you combine this game of football, I know for me, and again, I may be biased, I think it's one of the most things that parallel life in everything that you do. You know, this game of football, no matter how great you are as an individual player, you can't do anything without the team around you. You know, Tom Brady is considered the GOAT, 7 Super Bowl championships. And I've been fortunate enough to have to go against him a couple of times in games. And we lost a couple, but we won a couple too. And he was nothing. He was when we hit him and he got him off his spot and got him on the ground and around him. He wasn't the same guy. And he'll be the first to tell you, he wouldn't have won any of those Super Bowls without his teammates and the guys around him doing the things with him. And that's what life is. People will tell you how great you are, but you're going to have to lean on someone else. So that was one thing, the humbling that happens at West Point. We all come in with whether we have great academic accolades or physical accolades, and now we're surrounded by a bunch of other people who are just as good as us, if not better. And then West Point finds that crack in your armor and breaks you down and then builds you back up. So all those tools help. And I'm the same guy as a head football coach as I was as assistant coach, as I was a supervisor when I was at a diaper plant down in Macon, Georgia, and as a warehouse supervisor in McDonough, Georgia. My leadership, the way I lead has not changed. So the guys that have seen me practice or seen me on sidelines a game, that same dude yelling and screaming, and I was the same guy in our warehouse running up and down my training pant lines and tell them, let's go, let's pick it up. We got numbers to reach. I'm that same guy. Because leadership, it doesn't matter. You know, the same thing that motivates a soldier, it can motivate someone that's never served the military, that's in that warehouse or in that plant. Again, it comes back to West Point taught me how to get to understand people. And again, it all comes down to what makes that individual tick. There are 27 people on this right now. All right. If I was in charge in the leadership position, all 27 of you, my first thing would be able to figure out what makes each of you tick. And out of these 27 people, there may be 5 different leadership or 5 different things that make a group of people tick. So I have to understand that. And that's brought from, spending time talking to them, getting to know where they're from, sometimes just seeing them, how they interact in certain environments. And I talked about some of that in my book, of just trying to figure out when you're around and seeing in their natural habitat, so to speak, who are the quiet ones, who are kind of the leaders of the group already and more vocal, who are the class clowns or the jokesters. You learn all those different personalities, and now that helps you to understand how to interact with those people. And then you have to use that when you have to discipline them or when you have to congratulate them. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, you have to use all those tools. And then it comes always to me. It always comes back to being yourself, being genuine, being who you are. Said earlier, he was surrounded by great leaders when he was in the Ranger Battalion. But I guarantee you, even though they're all great leaders, they did it in a different way. You had some that were very vocal and loud. You had some that didn't have to say a word. All right. You have to figure out who you are. Again, another chapter in my book, I call it Don't Be Like Mike. You know what I mean? It talks about how, you can take traits from a lot of different people without trying to emulate that person, not try to replicate that person. And one of the examples I used in it is being in NFL, having to learn from John Harbaugh down in Baltimore, and then Gary Kubiak in Denver, both phenomenal leaders. And both can do the same thing and accomplish and lead teams to win Super Bowls, but they're completely different personalities. Coach Harbs is a little bit more outgoing. He kind of moves around a little bit and spends time with different guys. And Koob is more kind of even keeled and just laid back and chill. I lean more toward Harbaugh in my personality, my normal personality. I'm more upbeat and more just kind of explosive and expressive. I took a lot from Coach Koob, but if I try to lead like he led and be kind of even keeled and low key, my head would explode. And it'd be just opposite for him. If he tried to be the personality I am, he wouldn't be effective because you wouldn't get your point across. But the other part is, if you're not authentic in that, the truth will come out, because it's exhausting to try to be someone you're not. And the second that you aren't, that's when the people you're in charge of, they're going to pick up on it like that. And players are that way more than, and I know soldiers are like that. As soon as, you're trying to be someone that you're not, and they see this all the time, and when you slip up because your mind slips or it gets exhausting and you show your real self, that person's fake and you're done. So I never try to act like anyone. I never try to be anyone else. I'm going to be me all the time. All right. And that's just who you're going to get. And that means at practice, you're going to see me out there. When my song comes on, you're going to see me dancing. You can see me having a good time. You can see me singing the words to the song. You can see me cracking jokes with guys. When it's time to tighten the screws down, you're going to see me yell and scream. Sometimes I use words I probably shouldn't, but hey, it gets the point across. But they also know I'm going to come back and tell them I care about them, and they know I love them. And that's the key part. One of my famous, or not famous, but my favorite quotes is from the great Eddie Robinson. He said, "You cannot coach someone until they know you love them." And all my players know I love them. That goes back to the family part of them. I can chew their butt. I can be hard on them. I can get on them, but they're also going to know later that practice or later that day, they're going to get a text from me, a call from me. And I'm like, you understand what went on? Are we good? You know, I love you, right? They hear it on a daily basis. And when they get to that point, we're all good. And one thing that frustrates more than anything, you see it all the time. They see coaches get on guys on TV games and say, how dare he yell at that young man like that? He's disrespecting, he's degrading him. No, he's not. Because that kid knows that that guy loves him. We don't know what type of conversation they've had. They don't know the type of bond that they have. They don't know that man may have been sitting there and held him while that guy was crying when his mother died or his grandfather died or he lost a brother to gangs back home. They don't know that. This year, there was so much stuff we went on with our team this year, and I've been around teams a long time, and there were so many guys that dealt with deaths and illnesses and COVID and guys losing little brothers and cousins and so much stuff. And we cried together as teams at a lot of times. You know what I mean? And that helped bring us together because they know when I was at my lowest point, Coach Coaxum or another coach of my staff, he was there for me. So when it's time for me to chew his butt because he did something he wasn't supposed to do, he knows that guy that's coming from a place of love as well. So those are the things that really what it comes down to. Again, being authentic, letting them know that you truly care about them, that it doesn't matter what the football part is or the production in the plan or whatever you're getting them to do, that this dude or this gal truly cares about me. And once they know that, everything else is easy.
Awesome, Tony. And the other thing you said there that I really liked was, serving in the military and going through all the challenges and hardships and loss and grief and all those things are the same things that the players are going through. So, military service is a great empathy builder to connect with your players later, where, some civilians don't really get that all the time, so that's really cool. And, we're coming down to the wire here on time. And I know Coach Steinke has a question, but I'm sorry, Mike. I want to skip to Coach Hughes. No offense, but he's got a great one. I want to make sure that we get in here. So, Danny, you want to just ask your question real quick for Ced?
Muted.
Coach Hughes.
Muted, Danny. I think you're muted, Danny.
Is Danny still with us? I don't see him. Okay. Coach Steinke, you're back. Coach Steinke, you want to unmute yourself, ask your question?
Hey, Coach, this is for both of you. What is your best advice when a player or yourself is just having an off day, not feeling it, to motivate them to just kind of put in the work and get it done?
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. I will say this. I know everybody has an off day, but I don't really remember a day where my leaders were, if I was having a bad day, I don't know if they were like, you can sit this one out. You don't have to do the 12-miler today, or no, you don't have to jump today. You're having I really don't know. I'm not saying, I think the sports goes through, this thing that's called, load management, and if you're having a tough day, that's understandable. And let's just be honest, with the minutes that these professional athletes and college athletes are racking up, the body can only take but so much. But I have never been given like a day off and be like, hey, look, you don't have to go to the range today, or you don't have to. So maybe I'm the wrong guy to ask, but in my philosophy, I would say, if somebody's having a bad day, giving them time away as I think it comes across as a reward. I would feel like if they told me that I didn't have to do the 12-miler today, because it could become a cancer. If I know that Jones doesn't have to do the 12-miler because he's having a bad day, and I know that that's all I got to do so that I don't have to do it, well, tomorrow I'm going to have a bad day. And sooner or later, now it's not you being a leader anymore. Now it's you trying to just hold it up. I think leaders in my life have said, hey, if you're having a bad day, I'm not going to excuse you from the job you have to do. But if you're having a bad day, I think like Coach Tony said, well, look, hey, I'll be right there with you in the bad day, but we're going to have a bad day together. I'm going to be right there with you in the fire. You're having a tough day. Mom just called you with some bad news. Hey, let's talk about it. Hey, I'm right there with you, on the phone with you, whatever. I'm there for you, but I'm not going to give you an inch less than everybody else is getting, because bad days come and they go. You got to be consistent. You got to be the thing that's consistent in the equation. But once again, I mean, the Army is a crazy place, and I'm probably at the craziest places in the Army for 20 years. And they didn't give a lot of time off if you're having a tough day. So I hate to sound like a hard ass, but that's what the Army that I grew up was. Rainy, cold, tired, man. Like, you're gonna cross this stream, whether you're gonna get in this water and it's gonna be freezing cold, but you're gonna get it. That's the mission. I know it sounds like a hard ass, man, but that's just what it was. Sorry.
I will chime in on that as well. And it's and I have a little bit of both of that. Again, the other side of it being outside of the military and dealing with, 17, 18-year-old kids that I'm dealing with just coming from home. It's, again, depends on that situation. And I've done a little bit of both. And I got a couple kind of practical kind of examples, for in basics, he's right on. Again, got this from Coach Coop. He would say it all the time. He was like, hey, life is hard. Keep going. You know what I mean? Just keep going. You got to get through it. Someone typed in the chat, embrace the suck. We all heard that term. But one thing that I tell my specialists when it's talking about kicking, and everyone say, all you got to do is kick a ball. And I tell them about the process of how to go about it. I won't go through the whole thing for time's sake, but the bottom line, sometimes I gave them a whole military term to understand when it just don't go right, you can't figure it out. It's called FIDO. Forget it and drive on. Obviously, in military terms, we use a different term, but FIDO. But a prime example, again, I was talking about earlier, we had some of these young men being away from home for the first time and having, family members get sick with COVID, having, grandmothers die. Like one of my players, he had 2 of his younger cousins shot and killed on the same day. I couldn't tell that young man, come on to practice today. You know what I mean? That time that I gave him off, that time was that couple of hours in practice, because he found out that night before and we practiced in the morning. You know what I mean? And so that's that time off and check on him. But on the flip side, I have my own issues too. I have my own struggles. You know, I lost a cousin of mine who was a soldier herself to COVID, and it's in the middle of a game week, and I'm sitting there, and it's like a Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday, and then the funeral's going on back home, and I couldn't leave. And my thing is, if I told anyone, hey, I had to go for people would have understood, and my staff would have taken care of it and coached those guys, but I couldn't leave those guys. I couldn't leave my players for that. So I literally told them before practice, I thought I was fine. I thought I was good, but during warmups, my mind's starting to think about her and my uncle and the rest of my family. And I pulled them up, I'm like, fellas, I need y'all today. I need y'all today. And then I tried to be there for you guys when you had, I said, but I need y'all today. And I broke down and cried. I said, because they're burying my cousin back home right now. And I sure as hell want to be there, but I can't because I got to be here for you. So I need y'all to get me through today. And they delivered. And I think by that one little thing, we had some stuff come up later on, and guys had their issues and struggling with things. And it came like, hey, can you get through practice? Yeah, coach, I can get through practice. You did it, I can do it. And that's how it changed. So again, Seth's not wrong with anything he just said. The world is different in that Army world, that's different. Yep. You know what I mean? You got to deal with it different. But again, these are 17 to 19, and for my kid, it was 17, 18-year-old kids who, again, losing cousins that grew up like brothers to you on the same day. You know what I mean? Or, you know, one, you know, having your little brother get shot in the street out of a stray bullet, or that grandmother who was like your mother to you. I can't tell that kid to come to practice today because that practice isn't that important. What Ced's doing in the Army, that's a little different. That's a little bit more important. But that's how you weigh it. Again, it's knowing the circumstances, and leadership isn't binary. It isn't yes or no. It isn't, in this case, yes, this is all the time. Each case is different, and you got to be able to know when to make those different calls. You treat everybody fairly. You don't treat everybody the same. And the same thing with circumstance. You don't treat every situation the same. You have to be fair on that particular situation. So those are just some examples of different things of how I employed some of the same things that Ced talked about. And again, in the environment he's absolutely right. Hey, you got to go through FIDO.
No, that's good, man.
And on my end, we got to adjust it and figure it out and find ways to get through it.
That's good, man.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for that wisdom. And there's so much more in each of their books. I really encourage you, go on Amazon, get The Making Point. And then Tony's The Leadership Playbook is real short and to the point. And it's filled with a bunch of these nuggets that he's been talking about tonight. So Ced King, you know, thank you so much for your time tonight and your wisdom. Coach Coaxum, I love seeing you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom as well. And you know what? You sent us off right, guys. FIDO, let's roll. Put on for our city. Hope everyone, I get to see everybody at the next Coaching Legends and American Heroes here in March. It's going to be just as great. Good night, everyone.